Hello and welcome to an unexpected podcast. My name is Tim, and with me as always we got Matt, Rainier, and Devin. And joining us on this week's episode we have Charles and Richard Lynn. Um, so what we're going to be going over in this episode is a list from Flavian, and then we're going to do a new series we're going to try to do where we're going to be talking about talk to people about their meta and what it's like over there. And then we're going to reintroduce the duel, which has been a long time coming, where Richard will be going up against Matt for an 800-point list. I do want to let everyone know we are available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you're interested in listening to us there. And if you have any questions for Q&As, please leave those as well, because we'll probably be doing another one shortly. So we'll bring it over to Rich and Charles. So I know you guys have a podcast, if you guys want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so our podcast is called Into the West, and we're based in Vancouver, Canada. We focus on competitive topics and tournaments, and each episode we share a topic. We either review a faction or a profile, and the four of us, we bring lists and we compare them and things like that. And you can find us on Facebook. Just search Into the West podcast, and we're on all the major podcast platforms if you want to check out any of our episodes, Apple, Spotify, all of that.
So what do you actually talk about on the Into the West podcast? Like what's the focus of that? Because I know everyone has kind of a different theme and style they're going for.
Yeah, so we usually pick either a profile or a faction to focus on. And then there's four of us on the podcast, and we each bring a different list. So we'll kind of compare how this profile can be allied into like a yellow alliance or played in a pure list, small points, high points, just like. And we also like analyze the profile and, just kind of go over the competitive uses of a profile and viability. And then there's usually a second part of the episode, which is an open topic where we discuss a certain aspect of the game. We either debate or we rank certain types of profiles and stuff like that. There's all sorts of topics for the open topic. I don't know if Richard wants to add anything.
No, that.
I mean, I think Charles is being nice about it. The gist of it is we bring some lists and we trash each other's lists and say how bad they are. And
we like to do that on this podcast too. So, and I know you guys travel a lot. You actually gone to, I know personally, I've gone against you both in Desolation of Toronto, or maybe not you, Richard, but Desolation of Toronto.
Yeah.
You guys have come to Nova as well. Charles, I believe several times.
Yeah, I played Charles at Nova last year, actually, or the year it was playing.
Yeah, and Rich, you were like going for first place at Nova in the final round.
Yeah. That was my first time at Nova, so.
No, I think it was awesome.
A pretty good first experience.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played either of you. Is that correct? I know we've been at a bunch of tournaments where, we've, I know I've run into you. Yeah, at a variety of tournaments, but I don't think we have ever played. Am I right about that? Either of you?
No, I think in 2017, I almost played you and Evan in doubles, and then Devin came over, and while we were deploying, he's like, no, you guys aren't playing. So then
thanks, Devin. Thanks for that.
I just wanted the opportunity to go again. That's what I'll do in tournaments, just mix it up.
he chooses specifically. It's like, you know what, I don't really want, no, don't get okay. So I guess we'll move on to the list for this week. So it is by Flavian. If you guys want to go over that real quick.
Is it Flavian or Flavian?
I want to say Flavian, but it could be Flavian. I'm not.
Oh, yeah. I bet you it's Flavian. Like
it's exactly that.
If it's named after the Roman dynasty, I think it's Flavian, but maybe it's not.
We apologize in advance for butchering your name.
Yeah.
We also apologize in retrospect for the historical pedantry again.
It's a common theme that we mispronounce people's lists or names on when we're doing lists.
So I guess who's reading today's list?
Rich, if
Charles?
you want to go over this, or
Actually, I think
Rich
Charles.
or Charles. Charles, yeah, if you want to go over this.
Okay, so Fabian wanted us to know what we thought of his list, which is Numenor in a competitive environment, and with some elves allied in. So in his first warband, he has Isildur with the shield, horse, and the One Ring, and Isildur is the leader, and he's leading 9 Numenorian warriors with spears and shields. Then he has a Lothlorien alliance led by Haldir with heavy armor and bow. And in his warband, he has 4 Galadrim warriors with shield, 1 Galadrim warrior with banner, shield, and spear, 2 Galadrim warriors with spear and shield, and I assume he means 2 guards of the Galadrim court, and 5 Wood Elf warriors with bow. And the last warband is from Thranduil's Halls, Legolas Greenleaf, Prince of Mirkwood on horse, leading 2 Mirkwood cavalry with shield, 4 Mirkwood elves with bow, 6 Mirkwood elves with shield, and 1 Wood Elf sentinel. That comes to 750 points, 39 models, 9 might, 3 characters with strike, 12 bows, and 1 ring. So yeah, thoughts on this list?
Well, you guys are apparently the experts of ripping lists up, right? Like, no. I mean, what initial thoughts here? I mean, what are you guys thinking?
I think the first thing that comes out to me is that I'm not sure about having Isildur as the leader, since they're all heroes of valor here.
Well, I think Haldur's fortitude, right? Is he valor?
He went up to valor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's valor, so he can ally.
Right.
Yeah. So I do find it interesting to put Haldir and Legolas, either of them, as a leader, because they're usually in the back, sniping duties and all that. And of course, if Contest of Champions comes out, they can still hold their own. But this way, you can throw Isildur in with the ring and go crazy and all that.
I mean, maybe Legolas, because he has 3 fate. I would probably pick him as the leader.
Yeah. So I guess here's the counter argument to making Isildur the army leader is, first of all, obviously, if you're in Contest of Champions, you want Isildur to be the leader because he's the guy who's going to be killing stuff with something other than a bow, and he can just wade in. I mean, the other advantage to Isildur being the leader is if you're in a situation where you get points for killing the leader. If you run into trouble, and there's and it looks like he's going to be the other guy's going to come after your leader to get those points. He puts on the ring, and then all of a sudden he can't get shot anymore. He can't get spells cast at him unless there's a ring wraith around, which I guess is going to be a problem. And if you want to charge him and kill him, he's going to be out fighting you, period. And that really, puts you in a situation. If he's the leader and the guy wants those leader points, he's got to wade into a situation where he's going to be guaranteed to be outfought. And I mean, at that point, if the other guy's coming to you because he's the leader, you don't care as much whether you kind of flub your leader die roll or not, because wherever he ends up, he's still going to have the higher fight value no matter what happens. So I guess that's the counter argument to making.
Yeah, it's a good counter argument. I think I would still put Legolas as the hero, even when it came to contest, because let's say Isildur he's in the list. I think, in my opinion, Isildur is one of the most underrated heroes actually in this game. He's amazing for his points. But I like the idea of still Legolas the hero in something like contest. Of course, ideally you'd want it to be Isildur, but Isildur can still assassin their general pretty easily. Even if their general's protected, you can throw Isildur on the back ranks, heroic combat into him.
But you want those high points for my leader killed your leader, right? Isn't that how the scenario works?
I'm just a little paranoid.
I think you get 7. You get 7 points or something big. Yeah, your leader kills
it
their
is
leader
a lot. Plus, you get a might back because you're killing a hero. But I don't know. I'm just thinking of all the other scenarios too, with Legolas's survivability and so forth. But yeah, it is debatable. I want to switch though to the infantry models actually, like the warriors. I think the list build synergy is really good with the strength of the Numenorians and the fight of the elves, even with the fight 6, especially sprinkled with the Fountain Court or Galadrim Court Guard. I'm kind of curious what you guys think. I see both 5 Wood Elves warriors with bow in one warband, 4 Mirkwood elves with bow in another warband. I see them kind of as isolated parts of the battle. What are your guys' idea of maybe dropping the spears on the Numenor warriors and putting spears on the archers instead to give the archers a dual role? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think they become a little less useless in combat. I mean, I say
Yeah.
useless, but
And they're supporting with the fight 5 also.
my
I think-
assumption is he wants to put the bowman in the front. Like,
Yeah.
that almost looks like what he's going for.
Yeah, but if you're going to put Bowman in front, right? If you're going to put defense 5 Bowman in front, why wouldn't you want
Those are defense 3 bowmen too.
Yeah, and I was
The
going to
wood-
say, especially
Well,
with
the
Wood
wood
Elves.
the wood elves, I think, are going to be running around and hiding behind trees. I think that's their job, is just to, I'm going to run off, I'm going to grab objectives, I'm going to hide behind.
Oh, you mean the fight
terrain.
3? That's right. They're defense 3, right?
Yeah.
Wood Elf warriors.
It's the Mirkwood elves with bows that I'm kind of scratching my head as to what kind of their role on the battlefield is, because if you're going to put him in the front rank of a shield wall, then which is where they have to be in order to kind of to fight, then you may as well have Numenorians in the front rank because they have equivalent defense. I mean, I was thinking along the same lines, is taking the spears off of at least some of the Numenorians and giving either glaives to Mirkwood elves or spears to Galadrim warriors. And so there's another benefit to putting the Numenorians in the front rank. I mean, the Galadrim warriors with shield are going to have the higher defense, but against shooting, it doesn't matter whether you have defense 6 or defense 5. So at least in the shooting war portion of this, it doesn't matter whether the Numenorians are in front or the Galadrim are in front. I guess unless you're fighting elves, in which case the difference does matter. The Numenorians, though, get the resistance to magic from Isildur.
Yeah, they still get it.
Which the elves don't. So if the Numenorians are in the front rank and Isildur is nearby, then the pull the front rank guy out of the battle line with a compel and then jump on it in heroic combat type thing becomes harder to do. So that's another kind of hidden advantage of putting the Numenorians in front, is they're tougher to drag out of the battle line and drag forward from the battle line than the elves will be in the situation.
I think especially with the Wood Elves, though, with them being able to parry with the spear as well, like Matt said, if they want to go off and do whatever they want to do, to have that extra spear to shield if they need to stay on an objective, I think for 1 point having that is massive, and then it's always great to have the ability to support anyway. So I think for 5 points, you definitely try to fit each of them with a spear for the Wood Elves, but Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Isildur gets resistant to magic himself, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think when we were talking about the I'd probably go with Isildur because I think having that, having the ability to have resistance to magic for free combined with his stat line. Yeah, you worry about the 1 fate, but he does have the 1 ring. And I mean, it's a hard choice between Legolas and Isildur, but I think I'd probably lean towards Isildur.
Is he 1 fate? I thought he was like 2 fate.
Is he 2 fate? Maybe
I thought he was like 3-1-2 or something.
Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on?
Yeah, I
3-2-2.
think it's a Lendl.
3-2-2. So yeah, 3 wounds, 2 fate. Yeah, I'm going Isildur myself personally.
Yeah. What about a banner to the list? Would you guys add it?
He already has it.
He has a banner.
Oh, does he have it?
It's on the Galadrim.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord have mercy, guys. It's late here.
Just to weigh in, I kind of wonder if to get all these things we're talking about, if throwing out the Sentinel is probably...
I don't think you throw out the Sentinel. I think the Sentinel is a nice little tricksy thing to add in. I think you could probably just throw out like 1 Mirkwood elf with a shield, and that would get you some glaives,
arm everyone up,
some spears.
Oh,
you could probably
one thing I noticed. There's one thing I noticed is the Mirkwood warband's actually over the bow limit, so I would drop one of the Wood Elves with bow and maybe swap it with a glaive or something.
Wait, so Legolas...
There's 5 bows in that warband, and there's only 13 models, 13 warriors.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, he can only have 4 bows in a warband like that size.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
He probably originally... Did he have it originally at 15 models? And then maybe...
No. 13 bows, you can have 5 bows.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, because you round up.
Oh.
That always confuses me too. But
my bad.
But on the other hand, if you did what I wanted to do, which is drop one of the Mirkwood elves with shield, then you'd have a problem. So maybe you drop a bow. Maybe you drop a guy with a bow. Maybe a wood elf warrior with a bow. Because
I don't like the Wood Elf Warriors. 5 is excessive. Like, I can't.
So I like a few of them because it's always nice. But he's got a Wood Elf Sentinel. It's always nice to have a few archers with.
I'm not against him having.
Cloaks.
I was going to say the Elven Cloak is. Yeah, the Elven Cloak for free is kind of a nice feature.
You're paying for it.
I think he's adding them too to just bulk out the numbers because 750 with what looks like two semi-expensive heroes and one mid-tier expensive hero. And 39 models with fight 5. That's actually a lot of models.
Yeah, it is a lot of models.
For what he's. I would keep the Wood Elf bows, but as Tim said, I just put 1 point for the parry rule and a spear support. That's not bad. But I also like one thing, the Wood Elf Sentinel with Isildur. Now that's a nice combo right there. Because can't the Wood Elf control with one of his enchantments, like move a model?
You can move a model of courage test.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it's not a bad model to have.
Move a model and use a seal door to like bounce off him and assassinate someone with the ring or something like that. I like that little combo.
Is everyone happy with the 39 models? Everybody thinks that's a decent enough?
I think it's the minimum in a list like this because 39 models is actually an average number of troops at 750. Most armies are going to have 39.
It's slightly high. I think he could. I think
really?
he could get
3 war bands. You have 3 war bands, all 12 models each. That's 30 models. 39 models.
I think it's high. It's not high for
I don't think it's high.
It's how I would build something like this.
He has a defense 5
that's why
base army. Like most of the average median of his defense values are 5.
He has no blinding light too.
He has no blinding light. An average defense of 5. And then he's got models much weaker than that with the Wood Elves and the Sentinels who can be picked off. I actually think that 39 is like the minimum. I don't think it's high. I think he's just hitting an average with a list this defensively.
Well,
weak.
I mean, once you factor in low defense, then maybe that affects the numbers, but.
If this was Iron Hills, then this would be extremely high.
Well, I mean, at 750 points, a 39 model list is. I mean, I'm usually looking around like 37, 38 models at 750 points. So, that's why I was saying you could probably sacrifice one model somewhere and probably one of the low defense models and throw in some extra spears. And I don't think that would change.
Yeah.
Would you guys?
Would you guys a Wood Elf Warrior?
Yeah. I'm wondering if you consider drop the Sentinel, add like 3 Numenorians for that price. You go up to 41 models. It kind of makes you a little bit stronger at that point.
Yeah.
Well, you do lose a trick Rainier mentioned, which after he said it.
I know, but I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've gone against Wood Elf Sentinels almost a lot of the weeks that I play, and they just, especially, it only really is that beneficial, in my opinion, when they come up against low courage. If they don't, then
and I agree. Good versus evil tournaments are where I bring Sentinels. If I'm playing like all around meta, like I'm like,
they're useful in some situations, but I just want 3 models is useful in every situation. Is always my thought, And I mean the Wood Elf, it has the 2 attacks, but it is defense 3, so it can go down really easily. And I think I'd rather add 3 Numenorians to this list personally.
Well, I think there's other ways to add 3 Numenorians to this list. I agree with you that this list could probably benefit from more Numenorians because they're cheaper than the elves, so you're going to get more figures, especially.
And plus, a little bit of hitting power with strength 4 is always a great thing to have.
Yeah, but I think I would decrease some of the other elves. I think having one Wood Elf Sentinel to make the other guy think, ooh, one of my guys could get pulled out. In a list with no magic, having one Wood Elf Sentinel, I think, is a useful thing to have. But I think you could probably drop 2 or 3 other elves somewhere and get, probably maybe like 4 or conceivably even 5 extra Numenorians in this.
Mm-hmm.
The Cav potentially, you could potentially drop the Cav.
Yeah,
I don't know. I kind of
like the Cav.
Yeah,
because this list has no march.
Yeah, he needs
right?
the Cav.
Yeah, this list has no march, so we need something with mobility, and it's definitely a heavy shoot. But you could drop a couple of elves, even elves with bows, and you could get some Numenorians with bows. Yeah. Like you could have Numenorians with bows and spears, and Numenorians with shields in front of them. That would be another way to do it, and because that you're going to save some points there, and you may be able to actually, if you're doing some trade-offs, maybe add a figure or two to your model count.
So I guess to round it off a little bit here, so we're all saying that it's arguable whether or not Isildur or Legolas should be the leader. It seems like most of us are on the Legolas side, which if I'm going to throw my vote in there, I'd say, yeah, Legolas be the leader. But overall, a good idea either way. 39 models is a healthy model count. We think the might is healthy. We think the bow shots are healthy. We think his options of heroes are healthy. Does anyone disagree with Halder?
I mean, you could go Rumel for a little bit more fighting capabilities, but
Like
I probably would go with Haldir because everyone has strike at that point. So if anyone gets into a situation, you can deal with it.
He's one extra bow too, and he's one extra model with might that has a bow too. So I kind of like that.
Well, because he's kind of he's two bows really. Because
yeah, but I mean one more
Yes,
because it's him
yes.
and then he's extra, so it's kind of like an extra bow.
Yeah.
Well, I believe
think I'd probably keep
Rumil is Fortitude, right? So Haldir is one of the only options.
Oh, that's right. Yes, because
Yeah.
of the
To
heroic tier
ally.
level.
Ah,
Yep.
that's true. So
I mean-
Halder is the option then.
Yeah.
I mean, another option actually might be Toriel.
Oh,
Which
sorry.
honestly, I think I would have stuck in Mirkwood, and the Galadrim Court Guard is what he would lose, and probably nothing else really. I mean, Wood Elf Warriors, sure, Elven Cloaks, but Oh, actually, Wood Elf Warriors are in Mirkwood, aren't they?
No, they're not.
They're
No.
not at all.
Not
Okay,
anymore.
Just the Sentinels.
just Sentinel. Okay, so then I actually think Tariel might be the better shout than what you're getting. I don't, other than the Galadrim Court Guard, which. The only thing I would do with the Galadrim Court Guard is you only have two of them. Unless you're playing Nazgul defense, like, with a Fellbeast, you would stick them behind two people. But Isildur doesn't need their help. So Legolas doesn't need their help. Halder does? No, he doesn't. So it's like, all right, so maybe they shore up some defense against some hero running around somewhere else. But
Well, they shore up the warriors, right? So if somebody's got a fight 6 hero that's like, I don't want to fight Isildur or any of these other fight 6 heroes.
Yeah.
I'm going to beat up on a fight 5 elf. And
Yeah.
the guard of Galadrim Court runs behind them.
So, I mean, I just don't think with only two of them in the list, he's losing enough to say, hey, don't pick Tariel or a different Elven Lord, maybe from Rivendell that I'm not thinking about.
Yep.
So I think Halder's not adding a lot other than 2 shots. So, I mean, I would say if I'm going against this type of list, I mean, he's got 2 solid heroes and then the third one that's like, just kind of a might battery.
If he went to Tariel, he'd probably lose a model or two if he did that. Because
Yeah, and we all
yeah.
agree that it's like try to get more models. So like I like the Haldir one.
I like
You can-
Tariel
you can-
better
you can
than
cheat
Haldir,
Wood Elves.
obviously, but I'm
Okay.
worried about how many models you lose because that's the great thing about Galadrim is they have that they're that really well costed army for elves, and I kind of worry about that.
So
Tariel.
here's another option, and this is probably the way I would probably build the list. Is instead of switching Haldir out for another elf, I would switch Haldir out for a Captain of Numenor on horse with lance, and then a bunch more Numenorian guys.
I would say he
needs.
needs a lot more elves with spears if he's going to do that.
Oh yeah, and then you
that's a
take
total
some of the
list
some of the extra points, and you basically make all the elves have glaives in Legolas's warband, because you're going to have a bunch of points left over if you do that, and I think you're
How
going to
much
end up
is it?
increasing your numbers. You could give basically you make all your elves be second rank folks, and their job is just to run around and give fight 5 where you need it behind your massive Numenorians. You're right. It is a big change to the list. I mean, one of the questions he makes or he poses here is any thoughts on how to make Numenor playable at events?
Well, he's not even playing a Numenor list. This is like an elf list.
Yeah, but I think he
Numenor
wants
allies.
something with Numenor in it, right? Because he wants to play with his Numenor toys.
Yeah.
And I think Numenor, to get competitive, Numenor needs numbers because it is kind of it's a high hit, low defense army, but it's got kind of some big heroes running around. And if you're not going to do Elendil, I think Elendil is another way to do it. If you're going to do Isildur, which is a perfectly reasonable way to do it, I agree with Rainier. He's one of the most underappreciated heroes in the game. Mick, he's one of the most underappreciated heroes in the game.
Mick, we brought 2 more North Americans, and we're just going to trash you this whole episode.
Yes, we are. That's what you get. That's what you get for missing meetings. you kind of use the Numenorian guys who are actually fairly cheap, decent models to kind of build up your numbers. And then you have a core of elves running around behind to get the fight 5 where you need it and give you some bowfire support.
So I think overall we all think this is a fairly solid list. Probably not one we'd be immensely terrified of, but it is competitive. Like it's not a weak list.
Yep.
So, and I think in order to, if the player wants to bring it to a more competitive standard, it would almost involve a restructure of the entire list idea. Either weighing in more heavily with Numenor and different maybe heroes, but but overall, if you kept it largely the same, I guess all of us are saying get more spears on these elves, maybe sacrifice a wood elf with bow to do it, and overall, then your list is pretty solid.
Here's one last thought to answer this question about how to make Numenor playable is I'm now thinking about the interesting interaction that you get of having a wood elf sentinel or two and a Lendil with the free heroic combat. So you have the wood elf sentinel that drags somebody out of the line out in front, and then a Lendil charges it, gets the free heroic combat, and then he can either kill that guy and bounce back and reset and do it again next turn, or he can use that guy as a springboard into something else if that's your turn to rush into. So
which is actually a common tactic in Laketown where you have Gandalf and Bard who can do the same thing.
Yeah, but nobody really expects that from a wood elf sentinel until it kind of happens to them. So that may be something. Maybe something to think about.
Okay. Thank you for your list. Let us know what you do with it in the comment section below. And if anybody else has any lists, let us know that as well. We're going to move into the main topic for today, which is we're going to talk to Richard and Charles about what their meta is like in their area. Now, I believe you guys are in the western part of Canada, if that's correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're in Vancouver, greater Vancouver area.
Okay. So
for any of listeners who don't know that, but Vancouver is actually all the way on the west coast of Canada, and then most of the Canadian players where you see Adam Marceau and the Blackfire Productions, they're actually on the more eastern side where Toronto is and such. Yeah. So just in case anyone doesn't know the geography of Canada,
a lot of the if any of our listeners don't know, Canada is actually the country that is to the north of the United States. So
really?
If you look at a map, Canada is the one that is above the United States.
I thought it was below us.
But some people legitimately don't know where Vancouver is. They'll hear Vancouver and they're like, "Is that near Toronto? What's going on?" Because you hear Canada, that's the city you think of. So just figured for anyone outside of Canada.
Yep. So the first question I'm going to pose to you guys is, what is the meta like in your area? So I don't know who wants to tackle that question first.
Obviously, we're going to have to ask questions at
You're going to have to pick a Lynn brother.
Pick a Lynn, yeah.
So if I understand it right, your meta, before we even go into it, is how big is your gaming group in Vancouver? I know you have Jin Singh, who's kind of I believe, a pseudo head of it in a sense, and manages it. How many players are you usually looking at tournaments? And correct me if I'm wrong on that statement, too.
Well, I think Jin used to run all of our events back in the Hobbit edition. He kind of got the group together. We started with about just 4 to 6 players, and back in 2013, 2014. And after, I guess in this new edition, he's been less involved, but he still comes around and plays in a tournament once in a while. So just to kind of give you guys an idea, our meta, we would probably include some of the northwestern states as well, because we have players down in Portland and Seattle that frequently come up to our tournaments, and we sometimes go down to their events. So I would say that because we're kind of mixed in together, we kind of play each other all the time as well. So I would say our events, some of the bigger ones, 20 to 24 players. And then some of the smaller ones, like one-day events, lower points, those ones we would get maybe 16 to 18 people.
So it's pretty healthy sized tournaments. Yeah, that's actually pretty good.
And you guys were doing quite a lot of events. I would see the Seattle group and the Portland group always posting stuff on the ASBGA of them going up there. So you guys sound like you were doing quite a lot of events frequently before COVID.
Yeah, close to say one every month or one every 2 months. Richard, would you say that's about right for tournaments?
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. And we usually have a good mix of like 2-day events and 1-day events.
Okay. No, go ahead, Dev.
No, I mean, I just piggybacking off the whole meta question. So obviously, when we talk about that, there's generally, I'd like to say, a trend in certain locations for the types of armies people like to bring. And here in the DC area, we definitely like competitive, and I don't know, it's kind of all mixed, which we'll go into later. But as far
what
as
makes
guys,
it competitive? That's really the
the
question of the meta is, what makes what makes a list competitive in your area? Because there's a bit of, I mean, at least as I perceive it, there's a bit of like rock, paper, scissors here with lists, where certain lists beat other types of lists, which beat other types of lists, which beat other types of lists, which beat the first type of list. So it's kind of a rotation to see, who's bringing what armies within that rock, paper, scissors game.
Yeah, or like if you guys bring, I know some groups always bring Lady of Light to counter magic because they have, or to counter ring wraith or something, because they always see ring wraiths. Some armies always bring terror because they're afraid of hordes. Like what do you guys usually see in your area at events?
So I would say we actually see a lot of shooting. A lot of shooting is pretty common. So in our list, we typically think either Blinding Light or Heroic March is a mandatory thing. So that was another thing with the list that we reviewed today, is in our meta, it might also struggle a bit, because if you don't win the shooting war and you don't have a Heroic March, then it's usually going to be there's some issues, because either there's siege weapons out there, or just a lot of max bows with, either elves or corsairs or stuff like that.
Now, would you say siege weapons are relatively common in your area, or are they like every once in a while kind of a thing?
I'd say the last like 2 or 3 tournaments we saw a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
which ones are you seeing, if I could ask?
Well, Charles doesn't want to say this, but he brought like 3 mortar catapults to the last event. So.
Yeah, I can understand why he wouldn't want to say that. Yeah. I'm sure that made him lots of friends.
The last event before COVID, in March of last year, I brought a double catapult list. There were 2 lists with the trebuchet in it, and then there may have been one more siege weapon somewhere there, but
Iron Hill Ballista is pretty
Iron Hill's Ballista, yeah.
Oh well.
So you're like guaranteed to see siege weapons in your tournaments, basically. At least
if it's like over 700 points, you probably will.
Okay. Wow, that's very strange, because in the Philly area, I don't think any of us have ever, and that's like at our own events and other events, I don't think we've ever brought a siege
I don't think
weapon.
I've ever seen them at any Philly event.
You Canadians, guys.
Well, I mean, I used to bring them a lot. I haven't played a lot with them lately, just because every time I use one, Evan whines at me incessantly. But I mean, I certainly have brought them, and some players up in our name. I mean, Alex Wright has won a tournament with one.
Yep. I fell victim to that.
He was dominating at our. Oh wait,
he brought the.
Who did he beat in that event? Oh shoot, was it you, Devin? Oh, I'm sorry.
What was it? The Isengard Legendary Legion, and
yeah, he won with the banner too. I was like watching him, like, oh, how's this game, dude? I'm all TOing, be nice to everybody.
His banner,
and I just see Devin like this. And I'm like, okay,
that banner.
I actually have a really good picture of it.
Yeah. So how did your double? I've never heard of a double Mordor catapult list before. So tell me how that one did.
So it was actually a tournament practice for Adepticon last year, which is 1,000 points. And so the synergy I was trying to do was I had Witch King on horse, I believe Kardersh, and so the idea was to have the 2 casters, and then I would drain courage the enemy heroes, and then shoot the severed heads at them. So it did really well in 2 of my 5 games, where I was able to either kill the enemy leader outright or dismount them. But in the other 2 games or the other 3 games, they didn't roll very well. So and because there's so many points, yeah,
It's a lot of points.
Yeah, because there's a lot of points, and if your enemy starts at the center line and you only get to shoot a few turns before they close in on your minimum range, then it's kind of very hard to win. It's an uphill battle if your catapults don't make their points back.
Which
Well, you still have a couple of trolls.
You get the trolls, that's right.
Get
Yeah.
the trolls.
But I think if I were to bring the catapult again to a tournament, I would just take 1.
Yeah, that's probably right. 2 is just gratuitous.
There was this one meta in Toronto that I'd noticed when I first started going up to Canada, and I had noticed that they just threw theme out of the window. Not this pre-edition though, this new edition, but
Oh God,
it was like theme was out the window, and it was like, I mean, it was not uncommon to see like the Goblin King and a Shade and a Spider Queen and a row of Moria Goblins. And you're like, what am I playing here? And so the game became less Lord of the Rings and more like, here's a list of profiles and try to make it work. Do you see that in your meta, or is it more theme-based?
I think we have a good split between that with themey players and players are not. I think like even between us, I think Charles is more of the themey player, and I'm more of a bring whatever profiles.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a good mix.
Okay.
Was that the same tournament that Evan and I were at? Where I remember I ran into a list that had like the Shadow Lord, the Goblin King.
It was something like that.
Yeah, and then there was it was like this random eclectic mix of like evil heroes and guys that came with them.
Which it worked out for him. So
yeah.
We'll go on to the next question. What armies do you guys struggle to go against usually? Like, what is something you guys don't do well against?
Goblin Town.
Goblin Town.
we all?
We struggle in that one too.
It's so funny. Devin's talked about this before, where he remembers he was saying how he would go over to England and they just didn't understand why Goblin Town was competitive, and everybody here seems to understand how good they are. And
that's
for anyone listening, it's a picture of Devin and Alex, and it says, "When bringing a banner matters."
It's me losing. I was clobbering his army to death, and he had a banner like huddled in the middle of it, and he won. But yeah, the army. So Goblin Town. So to clarify on Tim's statement, it was actually a specific player, Will Champion, who is really good over in England. And he seemed to be totally unaware that Goblin Town was a thing. Like when we went to Articon with it, and he was like, "That's a stupid army," and like he really honestly
placed like first and third. Out of like 220 people.
And after that, I think he you saw people buying Goblin Town armies.
All these Brits like posting the GP.
But these figures suck. Yeah, but there's 90 of them. Oh. That's Goblin Town is the epitome of quantity has a quality all its own.
Yeah.
I think, and obviously this is the whole point of the army, but I think nowadays where people try to get more big heroes because there's less. In the old edition, it was much easier to shut down big heroes, so you didn't see as many. So you saw more troops. In this edition, with less ability to shut down heroes, you kind of see bigger heroes showing up more often. So it's kind of nice when you see an army that's specifically about, horde, because they don't come out as much. When you don't see many all Moria Goblin lists. You don't see many kind of things like that. It's usually built around the Balrog. You don't see like 100 Moria Goblins kind of a thing. But obviously it is extremely competitive. So
I do have a question though, like a follow-up. Like you guys said Goblin Town. Does that mean any horde kind of like does well against y'all's meta?
I think it's I don't think we see as much horde. Like if we compare to what kind of armies we saw at Nova locally, we may see one or two, but we don't generally have armies that go over 100 models. I think just go back to that question of which armies we struggle against. I think it's usually a lot of the time it's an army that's competitive that the local scene has not seen in a while or hasn't seen a lot of. So pre-nerf Angmar did really well locally before the changes in the
I mean, the
couple
shade
FAQs.
changes.
Yeah. And then also I would say like Corsairs. We didn't used to see very many Corsair players, and then when I went against Rainier at Nova, it was just very difficult because that was like one of my first times ever playing against that army.
That's actually an interesting comparison when you talk about you two attending Nova, because that's where you would see a lot of international players and such. So, like, what were the armies? Like you mentioned Rainier's Corsair list. What were the armies you guys saw that you would never see in Vancouver? Like, it just was rare.
Well, the thing is, like, I started hobbying in like when the game started, but I had a big break, so I came back in the new edition, and I just played a lot of pure armies, and then I ran into at Nova one of Rainier's compatriots, Jesse Schaefer, and he had the Galadriel and Guahir Mir combo. And I think he had like
The bird
Laketown
bath
captain.
list.
Yeah. The Philly represent. There we go. We got the Heisman. Grab that football and block.
So that was, I don't know. I was kind of just shocked when I first saw that. I was like, what is this? And of course, I took that back to BC with me after Nova, and then I think I became the Galadriel ego guy for a couple of months, and everyone hated me for it.
Geez, what was I going to ask? So what in your meta? What armies are people playing, other than Mordor with catapults? What armies are people playing?
We have to think a bit because there hasn't been any events for a whole year.
That's true.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I think, like I mentioned earlier, Angmar we saw quite popular in 2019. I think at lower points, I think there were some ranges of Thillion, obviously. And then
Do you guys ever like? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Minas Tirith and Rohan are also really popular.
Do you guys ever like make tournaments where you purposely trying to discourage a certain type of list, like Cthulhian Rangers, where you're just like, all right, maybe not as awful as like ban it, but trying to really discourage it? Like,
well, in that,
you can play Athelian Rangers, but you have to wear this silly looking hat while you do it.
That's a dunce cap.
Yeah,
No,
or like after
there's
they
people-
deploy, you go up to the board and you go earthquake, and you just shake the board until their models fall over.
So in the old meta, there were some tournaments we had, like for example, that would force you to play Lords of Battle, and it was mostly because of the fear of the huge hordes. They're like Lords of Battle is a guarantee. In fact, at Nova, I used to make the tournament where I picked the scenarios, and it was just before the last one or two, and I would always make sure Lords of Battle was in it, because I knew if it wasn't, then we were going to deal with certain armies that are so annoying. So I don't know if like you guys,
back in the day, with the hobbits, the 3-point hobbits.
Well, Rangers of Thillion haven't won a tournament locally yet, so I don't know if that will happen. But in terms of scenarios, when we build a scenario pack, well, nowadays we try after the new match play guide came out, we try to do like rolling from pools, just so they're a balanced scenario pack, but then they're also randomized. But before that book came out, we did sometimes we would do more pre-selected scenarios. So we would always have one that discouraged hordes. So either Clash by Moonlight or Lords of Battle, and then we would also have at least 2 mobility focused ones. So either ones where you have to run off the table or grab an objective or something like that, and just so that we don't only have an event where everyone just brings an army that can kill, but also just like a balanced rules pack. Yeah.
What heroes do you tend to see?
it's a pretty big variety. I would say that we tend to see more Lord of the Rings armies. So if it's like elves, we see, Glorfindel a lot, Legolas, Alandin. There's a contingent of players who are insistent on Celeborn, but
they're like, make Celeborn work again.
Hashtag make Celeborn great again.
And let me guess, a lot of the complaints are about the horse aspect of him, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's usually my complaint.
Okay.
Well, if anybody got a horse, it would be Galadriel on the horse, just because that's the way the dynamics work in that marital relationship. So,
my wife was that powerful.
After Galadriel gets the horse, then maybe Celeborn will get a horse.
It'd be a really interesting
not before.
marriage. Like, how do you have a woman that powerful? You're just like, all right, yeah, whatever you want.
Yes, sweetie. Yep, I'll get through it. Absolutely.
I don't know. I exist in one of those marriages.
She can read my thoughts.
Well, that's why I'm saying I happily exist in one of those marriages, because Jen can read my thoughts.
So what is a common points value you guys kind of have over in your area? Like what do you tend to see?
So for lower points, like generally 1-day events, it can be anywhere from 350 to 600. Just the ones that it's low enough where we'll be able to get, we'll try to get more than 3 games in a single day. And then for 2-day events, larger 5-game tournaments, it'll usually be, we haven't done under 800 in a while. So 800, and then recently we tried out 1,000 at just our last event before COVID. So I would say those are the most common points values.
I would just say 800, for all our main headers. Like, so most of the competitive tournaments that we practice for and all that, we'll build like an 800 list. That's probably the gold standard.
It does seem to be going in that direction where most tournaments are now. Now, are you guys a fan of it being 800, or do you kind of wish it was? Because I know I've spoken to some people and they wish that it would go down a little bit, so you'd have more tournaments where it makes you make a decision on if you really want this hero or if you want that hero. You don't get everything that you want, kind of a concept. Do you guys kind of wish that it was lower points more often?
I think 800 is a good points level for me, because you get some toys, and you do still have some decision making to do. I think 1,000 points is where I start saying, okay, you might as well bring the whole list in the book. So there's no point in that.
Yeah,
I agree with the 800. Like, it's like a lot of these hordes we're talking about, like Goblin Town or even Rangers of Ithilien.
Yeah, that's where they get
I feel
aggressive.
Like 800 is when you can get things to counter that, if that makes sense. So 800, you can add some magic without hurting your numbers too much. 800, you can add some monsters or things like that. So that's why I like 800 too. Like, I don't know, the American team, it seems like 800 is the way to go.
We're generally about bigger points, and I've seen it overall, and this depends largely on the tournament. More tournaments in like the British meta are more like lower 700, 650, 600. I couldn't speak on like the Australian meta or anything. Unfortunately, I've never been there. But
yeah, like I see British events and they're like, oh, 400.
Yeah,
exactly. I go, why? Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like fun.
I wonder.
It's probably really fun.
Elders
but
going
like,
around wrecking everyone.
Hobbits, there's like,
I mean, I would happily play in a 400-point tournament where I was going to, drive 15 minutes to a half hour and spend a day doing it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think I think there are a lot of tournaments in the UK that are like that. But in the US, just because we're so
It's
much
like
more dispersed, and I
everything's
assume Canada's the same way. I'm not gonna, drive 4 hours or, fly to go to a 400-point tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is the real big key difference, like you mentioned, because I'm like, you can fit Britain in Florida. So like,
yeah. And I think I like this, because I was actually talking with my group the other day. I think that's why we have so many metas in North America. It's because we are semi-isolated from each other. We're not seeing each other every single month, like playing each other, or like countering. Because most competitive list building is actually countering other things. So like I think that's the joy of like the North American meta. Like even y'all talk about siege weapons. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. Like
actually,
or even Matt's special things. Like we all have something different, which is cool.
That actually is contributing to, and this goes into a question I'm going to ask you guys, is when we first did Nova, it was the first time you really saw Americans sort of come together. And so we were kind of like a bunch of small ponds. Like you ever hear that big fish in a small pond? It's like we all thought we were good at the game, but then the British podcast crew came over and just crushed us twice. And we're like, we do not know how to play this game. Did you guys at all feel like there was a different level of play when you came to Nova, or it was kind of like where you're back?
Oh, and to preference this, they got 4th and 5th at Nova last time it was going on. Yeah. And y'all had like one or two in the top 10 also besides you guys too, right?
Yeah, because you guys came down with like 4 or 5 players, right? It was like
there's 5 of us. Yeah.
So when you went there, was the American level of play like what you expected? Was it pretty much mirroring what you saw in Vancouver?
Well, I'd say the first Nova, it definitely felt like it was a lot more competitive at Nova when we came down in 2017.
So not the very first Nova, but the first one you attended.
First one I attended,
okay.
but the most recent one in 2019, I think I don't know about Richard. I think it's pretty the variety, like the range of skills in army that I saw were pretty. It's not that different.
Is that because you guys are getting better, or are we just getting worse?
We're staying here. They're going here.
Yeah. Come on, Americans. We got to do better than this.
Well, I mean, Nova's a big enough place so that you tend to meet a kind of variety of skill sets there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the level of play that you're at in like the first couple rounds is definitely much different from the level of play that you meet in the last 2 rounds.
And I think like last Nova wasn't as competitive too because you were missing the likes of Andrew Brock, Marcel, Derek Winters from the North Carolina group. Like those 3 you usually see top 10 at every Nova, and you were missing like the whole North Carolina group, which is pretty competitive too and stuff. Yeah, not saying that wasn't competitive there, but I felt like there wasn't as many.
It was also expanded too, wasn't it, Devin?
Oh, you're right. Actually, yeah. So the last Nova that came, we were totally shocked by how many players I didn't recognize from the roster, because I know all the top players in America, and it's like everyone was getting locked out because there was so many new players like signing up for Nova that, I mean, it was a huge majority of our players here in DC who couldn't sign up for the event. It was totally locked out. And I'm like trying to fill spaces. Yeah, we easily could have had a 100-person tournament if we wanted to, and it was just that's why the North Carolina crew, the entire crew, couldn't sign up for the event. Like we were shocked because I think
that
Nova
sucker sold out in like 2 days. Like
it was gone.
Probably like less than 48 hours.
We were waiting for like the minute when it opened, and then we signed up and got it done. It was not something we were like, oh yeah, it looks like Nova's open. I'll get around to that. That didn't work.
Yeah, that was actually even way faster than my own expectations, because I don't advertise Nova a lot anymore. Like it's just sort of like, all right, cap it at 86 and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's why, you might have felt that it wasn't as competitive the next year, because a lot of it was new players. Like we like just got flooded with, or at least players I didn't recognize. Some of them were new faces, but they weren't like inexperienced at the game. But just, it's something to know going forward. I need more terrain so I can, host more players at Nova. So
okay. We'll move on to the next question. So how often does you guys' group meet up that you play with? Is it like once a week, once a month, every few weeks?
They have a tournament every month.
Well, tournament every month, but I guess if I would say outside
like
of
how
a tournament,
active it is.
Yeah, kind of like, so like if you guys meet up for like practice games, how often does that kind of happen with you guys?
I think we have like probably half half the gaming group would be meeting up for games every weekend, pre-COVID. But I would say the other half in our tournaments just kind of trickle in, just for tournaments or every other tournament. So it's a wide range.
So if you had a day, like a weekend day that you all met up, how many people are usually there per week, would you say?
Well, I think like Matt alluded to earlier, Canada is very large. So even in the greater Vancouver area, we have several smaller groups. I think like each group would maybe contain around 5 to 6 players.
Okay, so you have a frequent enough people where you get to play different people every week. You're not playing the same person every single week, kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like Richard and I, we live kind of close to our local games workshop. So sometimes we'll meet there. They'll have 2 or 3 tables for us, and then some people who don't live close to a hobby store, they'll just meet in each other's homes and just play games in their basement and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. I kind of want to ask, what is the general theme in your area? Do you kind of have more competitive players than themey players? Do you have kind of in between? What's kind of the types of players in your area? Would you
Red
say?
alliances everywhere. That's what I'm hoping for.
Is it more? And I know that you guys have said, Rich, you're more competitive, and Charles, you said you're more themey. Is there more Charleses in the group, or are there more Richards? What do you guys say in general, or is it kind of in between?
Well, I think that theme is pretty common here, even for like some of us who are more competitive. We'll like to do themey lists, but yeah, theme is really big here. We have narrative events. We have like siege games and stuff like that. So it's definitely. I'd say that a lot of people prefer to bring like a pure list or a legendary legion, but then you'll also see lists that are maybe convenient alliance or not necessarily thematic.
So you're not seeing any red at all.
I don't know if we've seen a red yet.
Man, I got to fly to Vancouver.
So after hearing that, Rich, do you kind of wish there were a couple more competitive players to push you a little bit further, or are you kind of happy with the scene that's currently around you at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a welcome having more competitive players. Like, I think that's why I enjoyed going to Nova so much, just being able to find all these other competitive players. Because the way I see it is that Nova had a very similar population of like distribution of competitive versus non-competitive players. It's just there's just more people there, because there was a lot of players at Nova that I guess looked like they weren't necessarily there to win, but they were bringing fun competitive or fun and themey lists. So same thing as where we are, but yeah, it's always nice to have more competition.
Last question I got for you guys. When you notice new players kind of join your group or join the area, what is the reason they tend to get into it? Is it for, like you said, you have the giant games where you have like the sieges? Is it because someone's just interested in the way the models look? They're interested in Lord of the Rings in general, want to get into it? What do you guys notice when new players are coming on of why they're tending to get into the game?
Yeah, I think one of the main reasons is they just love Lord of the Rings. So we have like a Helm's Deep siege day every year, and we just have a couple of people come, and then they'll buy the starter set after they play through the siege with us. And then we also have people who are just coming from like 40K and Age of Sigmar, and they just like a competitive game, and they just want to find another game that they can go to tournaments and play in tournaments. I think there's a mixed variety of reasons why people would join our group.
Yeah, actually use this technique where we would have Alex write. He would make huge, beautiful displays, and then we'd bring them to Games Workshop, and then purposely play on these amazing boards, and everyone would be like, I want to play on that. And we'd be like, you got to play Lord of the Rings. I don't know.
I don't know if you're cool enough to hang with us, but I guess you can buy that starter set and find out.
Yeah, we're kind of a big deal around here.
So I like that idea of like the Siege of Helm's Deep Day. Tell me a little bit about how you run that.
So a few years ago, I built a 8x4 Helm's Deep, and right now is stored at another person in our group, his basement. But he would bring it over each day, each year, once a year, and we'd get like 4 or 5 good players and 4 or 5 good evil players, and we would just play it out throughout the day. And the store manager would promote it, post it on Facebook, tell people about it. And so we have a lot of people who didn't know that there was a game for Lord of the Rings, or didn't know that the game has come back with a new edition, and they'll just drop by. They might ask us questions about the rules, just completely unrelated to the game that's going on. They'll just walk over and they're like, oh, I played back in like 2003. Is the game still the same? And so it gets conversation going, even if they're not actually participating in the game, which is like great, because we've had a couple people show interest and then come to our tournaments because they saw our game at Games Workshop. Yeah.
That's cool. I have a question for you guys in the competitive scene. Do you guys as a group travel to other events and compete, not as individuals, but compete like as a group? I know like with my Philly group and the DCHL with Devon's, like we come at each other. Devon, we come at each other.
Yeah,
like,
we
it's
do.
like,
We
okay,
actually have a little friendly rivalry where all of DC will like conquer a Philly tournament, and the Philly guys will come and conquer a DC tournament.
We went to a DC tournament and we got like first, second, third, and we were like, we're the best. And like 2 weeks later, they took first, second, third at ours, and we're like, oh. But do you guys have that like friendly competition? I would say with maybe the Portland or Seattle, or I know like you've gone to Adepticon. You both came to Nova the last time it was attended and like did really well. All of you guys in your group did really well. Do you guys compete like as a group when you go travel?
I think it's easier with the local scene, like you alluded to, with Seattle and the Portland guys. I think they're a bit more new than us, so they're still growing their groups, but they got a couple competitive players. And yeah, we definitely have some trash talk before tournament starts. Whether we're going like Portland or Seattle or something, or they're coming up, they're like, "Oh, we're invading the North," and then when we're going down, we're like, we're reenacting the War of 1812. We're gonna, come invade the States. So
you pretend that we're a Kai or Canada.
We did win that one, by the way.
You just find a White House and you burn it down.
I'm sorry,
any White House,
which
the
one?
first White House you see.
Okay. Unless anybody has any other questions, we're going to move on to the duel.
Those are all softball questions. I wanted the drama in the DC.
Tell us, who's the guy you guys hate?
Yeah, like what's going on? Give me the dirt. No,
who's the nastiest person you've ever played?
Put him on blast.
Who just sucks at the game? Who just sucks?
I mean, I have to say, the idea of like the nastiest Canadian would probably be like, probably a pretty decent guy to have as a neighbor in the U.S.
No, I hear Rich.
He just didn't apologize quite as much as the other guys did.
Would you guys agree? Let's all agree. Rich, are you the nastiest Canadian? You say sorry only twice during a game instead of the traditional 10 times.
Oh,
you're not too far from the truth.
All right. So we're gonna move into the duel. We're gonna have Rich go against Matt. For anybody who hasn't listened to the duel before, essentially what we've decided is imagine you were at a tournament and you're given a random scenario and you're given a random board and then you find out who your opponent is. So we wanted to try to recreate that to see how you would react to that environment. So earlier on in the week, I gave Rich and Matt 3 random scenarios, which were heirlooms, seize the prize, and retrieval. And then shortly they're going to go over their lists and they're going to tell you what it is, as if they were to come to the table and see what it is. And then I'll reveal the board to them as well. and then they're going to go through a hypothetical game where they try to convince Rainier, Charles, and Devin why they would win that game. It's going to be an 800-point game. So we'll go over the list real quick. So Matt, if you want to go over your list.
And can I ask one little question? Did you guys bring your lists to reflect y'all's meta, what you guys usually see or take? Is that
I imagine
true?
you brought a competitive list.
Well,
So-
I mean, yeah, I did. I mean, to
Maybe.
the extent there's a New England meta, and
Yeah.
at least for the last few months, the New England meta has been like me playing Evan and Evan playing me.
I have a lot.
That is a good meta, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I've done. I don't know if Richard like went outside the Western Canadian meta or not.
Rich, I expect nothing but great competitive lists from you.
This is something that I think I would build, and then I tweaked it a bit given the possible scenarios.
All right, perfect.
Okay. So Matt, if
I'm
you wanna-
voting for Rich. I'm done.
Rich? He already paid me, so like
Yeah.
it's just done. Sorry, Matt.
Transactions all.
Matt, I can still be bought. Don't worry.
See, this is what happened in the War of 1812 too. It was, we were ruined by the fifth column from the inside.
It's true. Well, here's the nasty like history that's going to actually betray you guys. In 1812, my family was actually Canadian. Nova
Are you just
Scotia.
every nationality, Rainier?
He is.
Let's be honest
He's-
with you.
I'm everything. I'm everything. So yeah, I guess I got to join you guys. I'm sorry.
The
pretty sure he's
multicultural
even
soup
South
that is
Korean.
Rainier's history, cultural history.
Yeah, we're gonna have an episode of What Are You?
What are you, Rainier? Question mark.
Yeah, then they see South Korea. Like, what the heck?
All right. So at this point of the duel, this is essentially where everybody gets to, they get to see their opponent. And they go, okay, so this is what they're taking. So Matt, if you want to go over your 800-point list for this duel.
All right. So I actually did not end up varying my list at all based on the scenario selection.
That's a confident statement right there. He goes, you know
yeah.
what? I had my list. There we go.
I had my list and I stuck with it. And first, we have a big giant bird. We have Gua here.
He's
Hero
never
of
been used
legend.
on this before.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
You've been talking about Gua here quite often, Matt. I was like, I bet. I even
I
told
know
my
it
Philly
does.
group. I was like, there's a duel. I bet Matt's bringing Gua here.
I'm
See,
bringing,
I'm
I'm bringing
pretty
the bird.
I think everyone thinks now Guahir's the United States meta. Like,
Well, he's
Ju-
used
just
in half
remember-
the duels we've
Remember
played.
where it started.
Okay, number 2, probably not another surprise. Galadriel, Lady of Light. Who topped my list of number 1 figures to bring when we did that. So obviously she was going to show up. And then we get into the Army of Laketown package, which
Yep.
is the 300-point or so package. The first warband is the Master of Laketown, and with him is 4 Laketown Guard with bow, 5 Laketown Guard with spear, and then 4 Laketown Guards who just run around with their swords. Then next we have Braga, Captain of the Guard. With him are 4 Laketown Guard with bow, 4 Laketown Guard with spear, and 4 regular Laketown Guard. And of course, Alfred the Counselor. And accompanying him are 4 Laketown Guard with spear, 4 Laketown Guard, and 3 Laketown Guard with bow. And then rounding out this list, we have another, my number 2 most useful figure, and that's Legolas Greenleaf, Prince of Berkwood, on a horse. And with him are a handful of elves. He's got 1 Mirkwood elf with a glaive and a banner. He's got 1 Mirkwood elf with a glaive and a bow. He's got 1 Wood Elf Sentinel, just to throw in a few extra little tricks in there, and an extra bow and an elven cloak, and 1 Mirkwood Cavalry, just to give me a little bit of horsey potential. So this comes in at 46 models, 13 bows, and I'm just going to kind of tally up the might here. I have 3, 6, 8, 14 might plus whatever Alfred can give me and whatever bonuses I can get out of Braga's 4+. I call it for free rule.
Is that 800 points?
That is 800 points.
Is it
All
is
right.
it too late to sub Charles in?
This is a list that
It's
clearly
a very
does not
confident
care.
statement there, Matt. How are you going to
And
deal with that?
You said how many models, Matt?
46,
This
I think you
has
said.
46?
46 models. Yeah.
And the heroes are Braga, Alfred, Master, Lady of Light, Gwahir, and
Gwahir and
Legolas.
Legolas.
And Legolas. That's
That's
how do you get
disgusting.
46 models with that hero, right? Like- All
Army
right,
Laketown.
Army
Army
Laketown.
Laketown.
Is this the list that Evan brought? He was going to bring this to Articon or something, right? Something.
Well, I suspect something looking like
Something
this
like
will
it.
show up
Okay.
in Evan's hands at some tournament
Yeah.
here. And I mean, not that I wouldn't want to bring it. It's just
Yeah,
that we
of
don't have
course.
2 of all of these figures, and well,
Well, Articon rules anyway, right?
yeah,
so.
exactly. So
Okay, so not a confident start for for Rich, but Rich, if you want to go over your list.
come on, Rich, you can do it. Canadian pride.
Just say Goblin Town Cup.
Goblin-
So after
We'll
recent
vote for
events,
you.
I've decided to go with Goblin Town.
Okay. So my leader is I have Saruman on horse, and in his warband we have Grima on horse, and also 2 Kerbane. And then in the next warband we have Melthasaron on armored horse, leading 3 Morannon orcs with shield, 2 Morannon orcs with spear and shield, 1 with spear shield banner, 5 orc warriors with shield, 3 orc warriors with spear. And then in the next warband, we have Garitz leading 3 black Numenorians, 4 orc warriors with shield, 3 orc warriors with spear. And in the last warband, we have the Mahud King with war camel, shield, and war spear, leading 2 Mahud raiders with war spear and blowpipe, and 3 half trolls, to a total of 36 models and 10 might. And yeah,
So,
that's
and just to repeat here, you said Mouth of Sauron, Saruman, Grima, and the final heroes are Mahud King
and Garitz.
and Guritz. Okay, so you both went this whole route of screw historical accuracy within the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We came to a tea party and you guys showed up for a buffet.
well, we could let's Lady of Light, Legolas, and Gwahir all heard that Smaug is attacking, so they decided to come and help out. And
They were all in the movie.
They were all
There.
there.
Saruman
Every one of them was in
defected
the
in the
movie.
Hobbit era also too. So like that.
So if I'm making sure, you have how many half trolls and how many camels?
3 half trolls and 2 camels.
3 half trolls, 2 camels.
You
So
have a lot of
there's
black. How many
supplemental
black
force.
Numenorians?
3 black Numenorians.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm
Um,
assuming
you
you have
have
an
you
angry
have-
dog in your army, because I hear it. Just no.
That's Matt's
Well, it's-
Easterling
is that Matt's-
dog. He's got his
that's-
Easterling dog.
That's,
And you have how
actually-
many Morannons? You have Morannons too.
Yeah, I have 6 Morannons.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to like piece together your forces in my head, because it almost feels like you have these like sparse war bands that are like kind of sprinkled in. But you do have
Girls.
36 models, and you also high defense on a majority on the armies. 36, you said, right?
That's correct.
All right. So I guess what do
All
you
right.
got for him, Tim?
All right,
Let's see the
so
board.
we're going to show the board next. So I'm going to show that to them now. This is the board we're going to be using for this week. For anybody that's not watching, it is essentially a snow town where you got a bunch of houses dispersed throughout the map. You have 2 in corners, 3, I'll say 4 in the middle, kind of 1 in the back. You got 2 little frozen ponds, couple what appears to be, I believe, Laketown little walking points, or maybe that's Goblin Town with snow on it actually. You got some trees with some snow on it, all dispersed around the map, and so it's kind of a
Pretty standard board.
yeah, it's pretty it's not
Yeah.
open,
board.
but it's
There's a
not
lot of
not
there's a
open.
lot of scatter terrain though.
Yep.
Yeah.
It seems.
Definitely not good for a mummic, but
Nope,
So-
not good for a mimic.
What are those white? Are those like ponds there? with
Yeah, I
the
think they're
snow?
frozen ponds.
Those are frozen ponds, so like it's up to you, like guys, whether that should be difficult terrain or not.
Oh,
Or
well,
just
I don't
in the
know. Having
woods.
walked on a few frozen ponds in my time, I think they're definitely difficult terrain. Um,
All right, so we'll say that
unless we got ice skates. I mean, if we have ice skates, maybe you go quicker. Who
So
knows?
maybe
you
my
can break
army,
off a sword,
as,
put it to
Yeah.
your feet.
as
Yeah,
the
the-
Canadian army, Canadian
Yeah,
army
break-
can probably go through it as normal.
He gets that advantage. He's used to this.
The
so he gets to move.
nationality bonus.
So yeah, those are kind of in almost opposite corners. One's in the top right, one's kind of in the middle, bottom left, and a bunch of little trees dispersed. Some of them in the middle to break up the open plain. So the three scenarios that were given to them as a possibility were heirlooms, seize the prize, and retrieval. And I have decided that we are going to go with retrieval for this game. So what are the
Right.
initial reactions to retrieval based on you guys' armies?
What is
This
that
one was the
mission
one
again?
I was not hoping for.
Yeah, I'm happy with retrieval. I think despite the fact that he's got two Crebanes, I've got bird superiority
hmm
with Gua here. So yeah, I'm
so-
happy with retrieval.
So for retrieval, in case anybody hasn't played it, essentially what you have is you start 15 inches from opposite corners, and you kind of have there's 3 inches in the middle on each side as like a little line, and
And this, by the way, this is a diagonal line. So
yes,
you're slicing the board as if you would slice a sandwich in a hoity-toity restaurant. So like from one corner to the other. So the center line is not as you normally would play it, but it's a diagonal center line running across the board.
yes. So you have an objective 15 inches from the corner, and both forces start 3 inches from the center line, up to 3 inches from the center line. And so they basically start up real close to each other, can charge each other almost immediately. The game ends on a 1 or 2. Then the points are 1 victory point if your opponent's relic has been moved from its original position, 3 if it has been put in your deployment zone, 5 if you have moved it off of the board edge in your deployment zone. I'm sorry, I apologize, I misread that. It has been moved originally as 1 point. If you retrieve your opponent's relic, you get 3. If you move it onto your board edge, it's 5. If you get it off your board edge in general, it's 7. You get 1 victory point for causing a wound on the leader. You get 2 if you kill them. You get 1 victory point if you break the force. You get 3 if you break them without being unbroken. There is a special rule, which is the relic, and it's treated as a light object. Relic is to be considered retrieved if at the end of the game it has been carried by a friendly model. If a relic has been picked up by an enemy model and is then subsequently dropped or retaken by a friendly model, then the player must try to return it to its original position as quickly as possible until it has been picked up by an enemy model. So essentially, if you can put back your objective within your 15-inch spot. So if you kill someone with the model, you can bring it back to your 15-inch spot and try to make them get it back. So it's kind of like capture the flag to an extent, where if you were to, stop the person with the flag goes right back to your base, but you have to physically take it there, kind of a thing. So we'll go over starting positions. So
But before we do that, just refresh my memory on the victory points again. It's how many points for the? So the relic is what, 3, 5, and 7, depending on whether or 1, 3, 5, and 7, depending on what you do with it.
Yes, 1, 3, 5, 7. 1 for wounding the leader, 2 for killing, and 1 for breaking, 3 for breaking without being unbroken.
Right. Okay. Got it.
So I have a dice right here. I'll roll to see who gets it.
Before we do that,
Mm-hmm.
where is Grima being assigned?
Ooh.
You have to do that before. Yeah, I guess you have to do it before.
Yeah, I think you got to do it before you roll priority or side choice and all that stuff. You got to figure out who gets Grima.
Yeah.
How Grima is being deployed.
So I think because of you having no offensive magic, you don't have a wizard, right? It's just
Do not have a wizard. Yep.
Okay. So I think I would stick it with the master's warband.
Master's Warband. Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so I will roll to see who deploys first. And it is Matt. You are deploying first.
I'm deploying first, so I get to pick. I get to pick a slice here. How do I want to do that? So I suspect. All right, so we're counting those pawns as. All right, so I think I am going to take the corner that is basically in the front left of the picture. The one that has kind of the house in the back and the pond kind of off to the left. And then that gives Richard, I guess, the really big pond on the right there.
Okay, so are you saying so you're going to start on the left side on the
left front.
Left front. Okay.
All right, which has a small, for those listening at home instead of watching, has a frozen pond, which we're calling difficult ground, kind of to the left of about where I'm assuming the relic would deploy. So there's a pond covering the left-hand flank, whereas the one on the right has a bigger frozen pond. It may be that the relic is actually starting.
I don't know if
the
it'd be
pond
on
or
it'd probably be
or at
just
least
before
very
it.
near the pond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt, what is your first warband and where would you put it?
Let's see. So I think the first warband that I am putting down is the master, and I think the master is going to go probably just in front of the relic.
Just in front of the relic. Okay.
Yep. And then Grima presumably goes down with the master.
Mm-hmm. So I deploy it right after you.
Yep.
If you're going to be in front of the relic, I'm going to just plop down right on the relic.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, Matt. Your next warband?
So my next warband is going to be let's see here. My next warband is going to be Braga, and he is going to pop down probably right where the master is, and then 3 of his dudes are just going to surround Grima so that Grima can't move.
Okay. Where are you going to go, Rich, for your next warband?
So I think I would go Saruman with the 2 Kerbane,
Mhm.
and I think I would just deploy on the far house
Right
near
here?
the top. No, the opposite one.
Oh, okay. So like right here?
No, that's where Matt's deploying.
Oh, I apologize.
So it'd be the
So-
top. Not that one. He
this
means the one. Nope, the other one.
Yeah, the other one.
Right now, go to the right. Jesus, Tim.
I'm not kidding it.
Top right.
Top,
Top right. No, left more.
like closer to the
Thank
middle
you.
line. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm
So-
hoping everyone saw the mouse cursor on the screens. So otherwise, be confused. Like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, so I would kind of hide him a little bit behind the building there with the 2 Kerbane.
Okay. Matt, your next warband?
Okay, so my next warband is probably going to be Alfred the Counselor, and he's also going to deploy somewhere in the center area there with the rest of my Laketown mob. He's just going to make sure that he is outside of although actually, let's see. So Grima only deals with might. So all right, he's just going to be in the center because Alfred's going to dump his will, and it doesn't really matter if for Grima's purposes.
Okay.
And then I'll go with the Mouth of Sauron. So that's the bigger warband, and that would just be in the near the center line, in front of the lake.
Okay. And Matt, you're remaining?
Let's see. So I think Legolas is going to be somewhere in the center where he has decent shots on. Well, actually, is all of your army out at this point, Richard?
No, I have Garitz's Warband and the Mahud King.
Garitz's Warband and the Wood King. All right. So I think probably the next thing that I'm going to deploy is I'm going to deploy Galadriel, Lady of Light, and she's going to kind of deploy near the mob, in front of Grima, and in front of Grima, but outside of 6 inches of him. So that's Galadriel, Lady of Light goes.
Okay. Rich, your next warband?
So I would put, I think, the Mahud King on the other side of the bottom house near the middle, just as a small flanking force. So where the green dice, around where the green dice is.
Okay. Matt, your next one?
So I am, I think, going to put Gwei here within 12 inches of Galadriel, also within 12 inches of that small flanking force of Mahud that Richard just put down, somewhere near the center, glaring at a camel.
All right, and Rich, your last warband?
So I think Garitz will be on the other side, just on the other side of that house. So still in the middle section, but closer to the Mahud King.
Okay, Matt, you got anything left?
Yeah, I got Legolas and his warband. So they're kind of going to deploy somewhere near the middle. And I think, remind me, Richard, you don't have any bows? Am I right about that?
I got 2 blowpipes.
2 blowpipes.
Be afraid.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Legolas is going to be kind of toward the right, with his elves kind of back toward the center to back up the Laketowners, and then the Berkwood cavalry is going to be kind of far right as a flanking force there.
So you guys are pretty spread thin, if I'm understanding this right.
No, most of my stuff is in the center.
Okay.
Gwei here is kind of facing off on his own against some camels, but back more than basically within 12 and outside of 10 of them. And I've got a cavalry that's kind of off to one side that can do a flanking move and
Both
make
your
him
forces,
chase me down.
Both your battle lines are like towards the middle near each other.
Yeah, but they have to be 6 inches apart, away from each other.
And I'm back further. I'm probably back a foot from the center line because I'm back kind of near the relic.
You're in front of the relic or behind it?
I'm probably 6 inches in front of the relic.
So you're
Blob is somewhere in
utilizing
there.
shooting. You are absolutely.
Yes.
How far away are you from his army? You're 12 inches, you said?
I'm probably closer to like 15 inches away from
15
his
inches
army.
away. Okay. So you're deploying back to maximize shooting.
Yep.
And deploying around that house so that way you can shoot at his army pretty evenly. I see.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So if you guys want to go ahead and discuss how you would play this game out, and then Charles and Devin and Rainier will decide who would win this. So Matt, if you want to go over real quick how you would kind of handle this game.
All right. So I think the first thing that happens is Gwei here channels Fortify Spirit and casts it on the bird. And
Lady of Light.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Galadriel, Lady of Light. And then she's going to be kind of hanging out behind that house where Saruman basically can't see her to attack her with any magic, and she'll dart out when she needs to. The second problem I need to do with her is I need to solve the Grima problem, which Richard cunningly dropped Grima on top of the relic, seeking to grab it. So that's why, and which something I didn't see coming. Right? So I would have said one of my guys will stand on the relic. Which may have been the case anyway, but I'll give him the point for that. So I think what I need to do is I need to trap him in so he can't move on the first turn, and if necessary, I will spend a point of might with somebody just outside of 6 inches of Grima in order to get a heroic move in and do that. That locks him in for the first turn. Then I think the second turn, Galadriel, Lady of Light, moves up within 6 inches of him and casts Instill Fear and then one of my guys will kind of move out of the way, and that will blow him off the objective. Hopefully, if not, I'll just move in, trap him, and do it again. Once he's off the objective, I'll just have a guy stand on it, and I'll just surround him someplace toward the back of the board where he can't deal with anything or can't interfere with anything. And then, so Legolas and Gway here are going to go deal with heroes and Saruman. So obviously, Legolas is probably going to stay around that central house where he can kind of dart out to. If Saruman is exposing himself, he's gonna dart off or get it in range where he can auto shoot Saruman's horse to take him off his horse. I think next target is going to be the Mahood King's camel. Gway here is going to be looking for targets of opportunity because once he's fortified spirit, I don't think there's really anything that can effectively deal with Gway here in Richard's army. So I think Gway here is going to be trying to pop off heroes on his way because it doesn't sound. Do you have much that's backed by your objective, Richard?
No.
Yeah. All right. So I think what Gway here may do is on the first turn, pop into something like a camel that he can get, and then do a heroic combat and be off for the relic.
Did we decide that Matt would have priority the first turn to do all this, or this is generally the plan. This may be the plan.
This may be the plan that happens, on the second turn if I lose priority. So, but yeah, that's what Gway here's job is going to be. Is he's going to instill terror in those camels, make those camels move away from him. If the camels don't move away from him, he'll go in and tag one of them in heroic combat off. If not, he's going to continue to kind of move forward and basically Gway here's job is just to solo toward the relic. And I think once he's got channeled Fortify Spirit on him, he's going to be pretty tough to stop. But that's his job. He's going to stay away from big mobs of guys, but he can pick around the outside. And if he can nab Saruman, he'll nab Saruman. If he can nab the Mahood King, he'll nab the Mahood King on his way to working back toward the objective. And the rest of my guys are going to kind of cluster around the front of my objective, get the most shooting I can. I've got a nice terrain piece to the left of the objective to kind of block off that side. So I think I can kind of tie down my flanks between a house and that terrain piece and make you fight through a fight for, it's not a shield wall, but a fight for 2 deep wall with a banner behind it. Well, a Braga banner.
Okay. And I know it'll be a little bit difficult, Rich, but do your best to give your strategy of this game, not taking as into consideration what Matt had just kind of said.
I do have one real quick question. What's the thing with the master? Is that passive or active?
So that is, I'm pretty sure that's active.
I'm pretty sure it's active as well.
I'm pretty sure it's active. I have a banner in there anyway, just in case. But Braga's going to be Fortified Spirit, or not Braga, but the Master of Laketown is going to be Fortified Spirit probably before the lines meet anyway. So.
Okay, so I guess my first tactic is I want to give Matt a false sense of security, tell him how much I love the podcast and how I'm a huge fan.
Oh, the psychological warfare phase. I completely forgot that.
Get him buttered up. I like it.
But I guess regarding the Grima thing, I think I do have the Palantir. So I think with that, you can call the heroic move, but I'm hoping to burn at least a mite or two off one of your heroes with something like that. And I guess if somehow throughout the game there's an opportunity to where you have to pull some guys away from there, maybe I can dart in and grab the relic with Grima. And as long as I feel like if I'm holding it, that's 3 victory points. And which means you would need to at least do the same thing with the relic on my side, or you have to break me and not be broken to tie me.
Or I have to kill Saruman.
I think that's only 2 points though.
Well, yeah,
No,
but if
he
I
means
kill
it would disable
Saruman,
Grima.
then I can kill Grima.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true. And so I guess with Guahir, I think, yeah, like you said, that's probably my biggest weakness going up against your list. And I think the important part is trying to bubble wrap my heroes, especially Saruman. And I think also in my back line, instead of packing them all together, I think I would try to spread them a little bit apart to try to prevent landing zones, especially behind my lines. So measuring out the distance, try to force your Guahir to charge my front line, because on 2 attacks and 3 attacks on the charge, I can only hope for you flopping rolls and having to burn might as soon as possible, because once you burn the might, it'll be harder for you to take down heroes and just kind of tar pit you. I think, and then of course with your shooting advantage, I'll have to march forward. So I have the Mouth of Sauron and Garitz with 5 points of might there. And I think the important thing will be getting the Mahud Raiders and Half Trolls into, well, the Mahud Raiders impact hit to kill your Laketown on 4s. So I want to try to get a good, probably run around the sides and try to hide from your shooting a bit, because you have a lot of shots. But if I can make it into combat, I think my impact hits will do decently. And then my Half Trolls and Black Numenorians, I'll try to position in more the center of my battle line, because I don't believe you have Fearless. Am I correct?
No, I do not.
Okay, yeah, and Half Trolls are fight 5, so I'll be backing up with spear supports, and with a banner, I'm hoping to chew through a couple Laketown guys a turn. And yeah, I think the Cribane will be mostly reactionary. I might pull one back as like final defense against a Guahir, just to delay him a little bit if it means sitting on my objective. The other one, I think I want to be more aggressive with, and maybe fly out and maybe try to help out Grima a little bit. Or if Legolas is being a nuisance, I can run into Legolas and hopefully tag him up for a couple turns, so he's not taking down my important targets. And I know the Fortify Spirit is really annoying because I have 2 spellcasters, so I think I would try to use up a lot of will to try to get some big casts as early as possible before you have fortified all your models. So I guess the question for you is, in what order would you be fortifying your heroes?
So I think, so the first one is Guahir, obviously. I think the second one is probably, I guess the second one is probably Legolas. And I think now that I'm looking at my list, I think instead of having to spend the second turn with Galadriel, Lady of Light, instilling fear, I suspect I think Galadriel may move up within 6 inches of him, and I think the Wood Elf Sentinel will take a try at. I think the Wood Elf Sentinel can get Grima away from the relic, so maybe the second turn probably is Legolas. And then after that, it may be, depending on where the situation is, it may be Galadriel herself. If not, it's probably going to be Master next, and then Braga.
Okay, so and Guahir is your leader?
Guahir is the leader.
Okay.
And Guahir is deep striking.
Okay, and you're fortifying him the first turn.
He's first turn. He's getting a channel fortify spirit on him.
Okay. Yeah. So
And Galadriel's kind of going to be behind that house, so I don't think there's going to be much you can do to mess with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think with Galadriel and Guahir kind of a little bit out of the picture, magic wise, I think Saruman might try to attempt something like a channeled flame burst on the master, because if I can take him down, I feel like my battle line, just shield wall line, would be able to rip through his Laketown guys a lot easier, because I have fight 4 and fight 5. So
remind me what the range is on the channel flame burst, or on a flame burst rather.
I think it's a 6.
Yeah.
6.
You got to be. Remember, I'm starting. Master's going to be probably about 15 inches back.
Right, but you were saying that you wouldn't fortify him until probably third or fourth turn.
Yeah, you could probably. You could get Saruman up there. Saruman would have to kind of be in the. Yeah, he would not be hanging back if.
Because I would definitely have to move forward with Saruman. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's fair.
Does Saruman have rogue defense?
He does.
Okay.
Okay.
And then how would you? One question: how would you use Saruman? Would you use Sorcerer's Blast or any of his? He has Compel too, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yep.
Would you use any of that besides the Flame Burst?
Well, actually, to rephrase that question, what are the first 3 spells you cast in this game? What are you casting?
Hypothetically, because I know it could change.
Yeah. Hypothetically, with your plan in mind, what do you? Mm-hmm. And I understand you have the foresight knowledge of, what Matt's going to cast, but I imagine it's not going to matter.
Yeah, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that my first 3 spells will be Fortify Spirit, Fortify Spirit,
yeah.
Fortify Spirit.
Well, actually, earlier you had Instill Fear, which I
had, and then I remembered I've got a Wood Elf Sentinel on the list, so that solves that problem.
So, what are your first 3 spells you're casting? And keep in mind, you have 2 spellcasters, so.
Yeah.
So what is the role of the Mouth of Sauron too? I would ask as a counter or as an after question for that.
He's going to come forward at the beginning, explain to me how I'm doomed, and then I'm going to cut off his head. Yeah, and then Guahir's going to lean down and bite his head off.
Oh, Rainier, the evil Saruman doesn't have heroic defense.
Oh, okay. So it's just a good.
Yeah.
Does Saruman have terrifying aura?
Yes.
Yeah, he is.
Okay. So that's what I would be casting first.
You channel it out of curiosity.
Well, you never mentioned he would.
I wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm
I'm just raising it because it's something to think about with Saruman in the situation, especially if you're going to be using him up front, is channeling terrifying aura.
Well, I'd imagine as you told how you're going to deploy, you're probably going to have him like bodies where it's like at least 2 or 3 heroic combats in the way to get to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're assuming that Richard's not going to play terribly with Saruman.
No, he's not going to put him in front and be like, hey.
Yeah. Charge him into the battle. So first 3 spells. So first one is Terrifying Aura, second one. And of course, mention if you're going to channel anything.
Yeah. So I think it's hard because I think it would just be more reactionary. I think there's no, major targets. I think if there's anything I can Sorcerer's Blast, I will, but Matt probably won't make many mistakes there. I can try
Sorcerer's Blast what?
Just if I can get anything, like if there's any models in front of heroes, like a mounted Legolas, I can try to dismount or something like that.
Okay.
I wouldn't just blast a normal target. I don't think that would be.
Yeah, that's why I ask, because I assume you're not, bowling through his army or something.
Yeah. I think, or if I can somehow compel a model in front of his shooting line. So if he has a shooting block, I can move one of his guys in front of his archers to prevent some firing lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be probably the go-to in the first couple turns if I don't have a good Sorcerer's Blast target. I think I would just do Command or Compel.
And your third spell is still reactionary, I assume, just kind of along those two lines of reactionary to what Matt does.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And for the Mouth of Sauron, since the Transfix won't be doing much, I would probably save his will until the lines connect, and I would probably do Instill Fear to move some of his battle line, and then I can get a better engagement.
So you would use the Mouth of Sauron as a combat hero too, right?
Yeah. He's a mounted Fight 5 hero, and he's not going to be doing much magic impact this game. So definitely throw him in.
Okay, so what we'll say is we'll go to each person. If you have any remaining questions, you can ask them there, and then just give your opinion on based on what you've heard, who you'd vote for. So Rainier, I'll go to you first. So if you have any questions, ask them. If not, just who you think.
One real question, Matt. How aggressive are you going to use Gua here for the objective? Would you be willing to grab it and run off the board?
Oh yeah, I mean, if I grab it and run off the board, I win the game. So if he doesn't commit significant forces to defending it, then Gwahir is going to go and grab the objective and take it off the board.
Okay. And how aggressive are you? Said you had Lady of the Light behind a house. Are you going to keep her behind that?
So if that's the plan, then everything else is basically going to defend the flag, right? I'm going to have my mob of guys sitting on and in front of the flag, and Galadriel, Lady of Light, is going to be with that crew. Legolas is going to be with that crew. Because it sounds like the way he's deployed and the way he's saying he's attacking, he's not playing defense. So Gwahir may, kind of threaten some guys on the way in, may do a heroic combat off of somebody on the way in, but then he is making a beeline for that relic. He's going to grab it, and then he's going to either flap it off the board on his side, but more likely I'm going to try and flap it off the board, on my side of the sandwich, staying away from him. And if I devote Gwahir to getting 7 points out of this scenario, that's fine with me, and I'll make him kind of fight his way through the rest of my army to get anything done.
Yeah, and I think knowing that, it's just all I can do is try to delay Gwahir, and with what I have, whether it's Crebain or just my straight orcs, but I would try to just have to break him and distract him enough as well so Grima has a chance to grab my relic first. So that would be kind of my counterplay to that.
Right.
Yeah, I think y'all both are playing it pretty well to the list. I think Richard would play it actually exactly how I would play it, just upfront everything. And I always rave about Gwahir. He is the nastiest creature in this whole game, in my opinion. And even the idea, because if he throws himself into the Mahud, I would think, okay, Mahud King, half trolls, everything passes courage, automatically surrounds him and kills him, potentially 50-50 on a dice off for the strike. But the idea that he has heroic defense too is kind of oh.
So who are you going with?
But I like Richard's army better. A lot better, actually, in a way, in the sense that I always talk about the core troops. What do you bring in the troop composition? I like your idea, Matt, and I like the horde aspect of it, but I have played against a player, Samir. He brings Late Guard all the time, and it just melts through like butter. And I think especially with what Richard is bringing, it's going to melt through like butter, particularly fast. He can heroic combat with Gurits, Mouth of Sauron. A whole bunch of his troop, his half trolls, will just knock it down. So my only fear for Matt is actually he can delay Matt long enough with Gwahir, break Matt's force, potentially grab the relic for, just 1 point because he moves it. And it would be Matt would probably get to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's I guess my route is just break him right away, end the game as quick as possible while delaying Gwahir. And I think it's possible to do so, but I think I don't know. I like that aspect. But just the idea of Guahir in this game is really good. Though I do like the two flyers you have, Richard, and I do like Saruman, and just all the heroes you have can make really nice combinations to destroy this army and delay Guahir. But I think just with Guahir's the points here are in the relic and the hero. And I think it's near impossible to kill Guahir. And it's very possible for Guahir to get the relic. So that's, I think, just in this scenario, I would slightly go towards Matt, but it would be like a 53-47%, where it's just that slight, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I know, like, I'm giving both of you the benefit of the doubt because I've played Matt. I know, Richard, you're really good. Like, I know you guys aren't going to make dumb mistakes, like isolate a hero or let someone heroic combat and kill a hero. Even Matt, he's not gonna waste Guahir. So seeing you both at the same level and the scenario, I think I'd slightly tilt towards Matt, but it would have to do mainly with the scenario.
Okay. So that's one for Matt. Devin, where are you going with this?
So there are a couple of interesting things to note. One, I thought Richard's idea of plopping Grima right on top of the objective is brilliant. I feel bad for Matt because I imagine he would have countered that. But
That's okay. I'll give him the props for that move too. Yeah.
So, ultimately, without instill fear, and I mean, what's Grima's courage?
I think 3.
2,
Three.
3 or 2.
Yeah.
2 or 3.
Let's assume. Well, I don't want to assume.
Drop
That's
that by
big,
1.
Yeah,
It's 2.
2.
Yeah, so he's courage
drop
1.
Courage 1. All right. So I think actually when Matt originally said he was going to cast Instill Fear, I thought, that might be actually good for you because, let's say take priority for some, if Matt doesn't counter it, you don't have to dig up the relic, right? Like you just pick it up.
Yeah, just
right?
pick it up.
Yeah. So that could end up making it where it now leaves the origination point. So you do have the Palantir. Matt will most likely see what's happening and he's going to call a heroic move, which you can't counter unless you counter with Saruman. And I don't think you're going to do that just based on the way you're talking and style play. You can't, not counter with Saruman directly, probably someone else who's not calling a march because you already said you'd go aggro. So you'd have to counter with someone so that Saruman can transfix the Sentinel. But at no point in time during your spell casting did that seem to be a concern for you. You seem to actually be going at kind of actually unusually weak targets. You're dismounting Legolas, which I don't think Matt cares about. You're hitting like targets of opportunity in a reactionary way. I actually think this spell casting could have personally, and maybe Rainier might correct me.
I disagree with that heavily. Actually, I think Richard's main focus has to be delaying the heroes. In the sense that he knocks Legolas off, that delays the Legolas.
I'm not saying he shouldn't, but
but like this is like it would delay Legolas one turn to get the Mahood King destroying stuff, and it's just that one thing that's needed, or even the shooting in the initial.
Okay, I can agree with the fact that he's stopping shooting for at least.
Stop shooting for one round, which actually you're only going to get one round of shooting off anyways because Richard has cavalry.
Yeah.
So I think. I like the idea of that because all of his targets that he talked about are for sure going to go through. He's not going to test it on Guahir, knowing that he's fortified and having, or like you could maybe disagree, but like everything when I play this game, I'm always like, I'm not leaving a chance. In every strategy I do, I want it to go off. I want like the positioning to be perfect. I want my spells to go off no matter what and be in the position for it. So I actually like that aspect. And it actually was tilting me towards Richard in a way because it's like Richard has so many tools and he has the ability to knock out one of the 3 tools that Matt has.
Yeah.
Where Guahir can knock out one tool that Richard has, but Richard still has like 3, maybe 4 or 5 tools if you include the warriors. So yeah. That's where I just like slightly disagree.
I do. No, and actually that does convince me on the Legolas option. Just like, okay, yeah, I can see where that would go, except he would have to do that in the first turn in order for that to be effective. And Richard didn't say he was going to do that in the first turn. In fact, I believe his first turn spell was going to be something entirely different. What was it? What would he say?
Terrifying Aura.
Terrifying Aura, which means Legolas got that shot off. So next turn he's going to fire him, but as you mentioned, I think it'll be too late. And we already heard what Matt would say he would fire his first target from Legolas from, which was what again?
Well,
Saruman's horse?
Yeah, if Saruman's horse is visible, which it may well be if he's up in the front rank, that's where it's going. Otherwise, it's going to be the king.
Yeah. So this will really depend on where Richard puts Saruman, but let's assume it's Saruman is the first target. Then the Mahout King is now in, because at that point, like, it's too late.
Yeah.
So
See, I think that's where it's a slight mistake, because Saruman was in the middle, and if I was Richard, I would make sure Saruman is that target, because you just horse Saruman. Okay, that's fine. He's now on the floor, but his spells are still like,
exactly,
what is that, like 18 inches or something?
Yeah, exactly. He's 18 and on.
So I think that in itself would like spring me up to be like, okay, I escaped that. I'd even put Saruman in a place to like, oh no, I got shot, but like wanting him to get shot, because the Mahout King on a camel, one combat is like, he can literally, that would like literally one turn, like with him not dehorsing him, he could take out around like 8 to 10
now
of
the
the
only
other guys
thing
on a heroic combat with like do heroic combat.
He's got to get past the bird first, because remember, he's staring at a bird.
He's got a bird, and then he also threw him on the side of the elves, which is never
But even the
comfortable.
Mahout King could potentially delay the bird by heroic striking. Bird can defense or do what the bird wants. Mahout King could potentially die the first round or die the second round, but still, with the aggressiveness of Richard's army, he's going to break. I feel he's going to break Matt.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that. And obviously, there's chance things that happen. I mean, Matt could throw on the bird, roll 2 1s, and then
and I say that, but I also still like would slightly go towards Matt, because like I know Matt, the son of the gun. Like I hate playing him. He's going to play. I'm just
really
like well.
I'm more like going off of the decisions that were made, right? Like, so Matt shot at Saruman first. I agree. I think that's a mistake. However, I don't think it matters, because by the time Richard does the stuff with his spells, because he gets Terrifying R off, the Mahout King's going to be in there. So, and then, you're right. Like the range of Saruman's spells, he doesn't really care to be mounted. So, I think the only thing where me and Rainier would differ is so once again, like, just going over recap here, I think that Matt's going to get Grima away from that relic before he has a chance to pick it up. At Courage 1, I think it's highly unlikely he'll pass, even if he does, then that's an interesting thing. But I think it is still unlikely, and I think that even if Richard uses the Palantir, it won't matter. And so I'm just going to go with that. I'm going to assume that he's got him off that thing. We don't know what the roll would have been, but if not, then Matt will likely leave him there. In which case to deal with him in some other way, which we'll just say that's 1 point for Richard at that point. I guess the only place where me and Rainier differ is the kind of more late game. I have no problem dropping a little bit of magic on Gwahir. I think that Gwahir trying to roll 2 dice in the will. Well, actually, he's got 3 points in natural will too.
Got 3 points in natural will.
3 might.
2 dice plus 1.
Yeah, I can. I've done this before, where I like just slam a Boromir. I did that at Warhammer World GT, where I slam him with magic. And if you roll that 6, it's still pretty hard, like, to resist. It's not hard, but it's like there's.
No, but I get you too, like, because I've like dice rolled like someone with 3 will and 3 might, and it's like boom.
I just think
you can always fail. You can always fail.
My issue is if you don't do anything with Gwahir and you just play defensive games with a very light contingent, which we already heard Rainier is charging forward. That light contingent, Gwahir is unstoppable, and you're mostly because you didn't try to even fight him. We're fighting him with Creebane and 2 camels. Like, that flank is totally open. I think Matt's going to grab that thing and run. At that point, Richard has to beat through Matt's army, which if I'm going to, the slugfest, I would normally say actually Richard probably has that, but Galadriel is a weird outlier where she can keep casting that Instill Fear. And I get it that Rich has 1 or 2 of those up his sleeve as well, but for the long haul, I also agree with you, Rainier, that the Laketowners get cut up, but I'll have to say, just because of the defense on Gwahir, the problem with dealing with him has not been addressed, and he's he's swinging so many points for not being addressed. I just gotta say, probably Matt will most likely win.
Yeah, I think Gua here, just the list. You both have good strategies, in my opinion. You both are good players, but Gua here in this scenario, and being the leader, and having heroic defense, it's like you have the perfect assassination squad, which is the king, the camels, and the half trolls. But it's like even that
he split them up.
Here,
he threw the half trolls forward, and then he has the camels there, which Matt
yeah. But what I'm saying is more like, even if you threw all that into Gua here, Matt can just heroic defense. Like you know what I mean? Like it's just so difficult.
Heroic defense doesn't really do much against the amount of dice he's thrown it. Like, because if you throw enough dice, it's something with a heroic defense. He already needed 6s to wound him anyway. So it's
in some case, well, actually, he's strength 4, right? Yeah, so he needs
strength 4 across the board, except for the half trolls. So they're the only ones being impacted.
You'll need six sixes, basically.
I'm not saying commit everything to him, but it's just I don't know what the answer 100% is, but we know what Richard is doing is not going to stop Gwahir. So, I mean, maybe it's the Black Numenorians tagging him or whatever, but we already know all that's rushing forward. So,
but he has the Creebane. Creebane can stop him for a few turns. Even the Mahud
Creebane are like
Raiders.
1.
That's true.
I mean, like the Creebane as the defense would be, I guess, just waiting for Gwahir. Because they do have 4 wounds, just hoping to sandbag him a couple turns.
By the time he's combated into that, if all you have sitting there is Creebane, you're just delaying the inevitable.
Well, I mean, the way to deal with the Creebane is you just barge him off.
Yeah, I just think this thing's going to be grabbed. And so that's where I say, I think Richard's army in a straight up fight could actually do some serious damage to Matt's. Absolutely. I think the way the magic is being utilized and all that, I just would have to say, just because Gwahir is a threat being unanswered, and I do think the rest of Matt's army is capable of holding what Richard is throwing at him back. I do think that there's some choices I wouldn't have made, but even regardless, I'll go with Matt as my.
Because I see this too. Like, it's like, even the best case scenario is you break Matt. I don't think you're going to break this game, Richard, but even if you break Matt, that's 3 points. You're not going to wound Gwahir, I think, because like that's impossible. And I don't think you'll be able to take the relic just based on time with how fast Matt's going to go back to your place. So that in itself would be 5 points. And like all Matt has to do is bop, bop, which even if you defend is easy for him and he wins the game. So it's kind of hard.
Okay. I know there can't be that much more talking points after all that, but Charles, I guess, give what you can. I mean, they pretty much covered almost everything.
Yeah. Well, there's already two votes for Matt, but I guess for me,
you gotta side with your brother. You got to
give me the shout out.
Well,
I understand.
Well, no. Well, it really comes down to I think it comes down to how quickly Richard can break Matt. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I look at this board, there's a lot more terrain on Matt's side. And I know a 60 mil base, it can be tricky at times for moving. I played against, Felby, School of Ours that have trouble landing. So assuming the Gwahir can't land on any of the
I'm understanding Gwahir's
roof.
Not on Matt's side. He's on Richard's side.
Well, he starts.
Matt said he was
going
to shove him forward.
Yes. But Richard said that he was going to kind of place models, kind of disperse them so that it would create zones where Matt can't land. So I think kind of in the middle there, where the trees are kind of clustered together, I don't know. It doesn't sound like Richard is going to try to kill Gwahir, so it's just about how many turns he can stall, and if it stalls for, I would say, 4 turns. I don't know if that would give Richard enough time to get a few good combats in, because
lines are engaged at turn 2. So just making sure you're aware, when you say 4 turns, there's 2 turns of combat. So you're saying that he'll be able to break Matt in 2 turns with instill
I,
fear.
th-
on
I
the
think
board.
he'll be able to break Matt in 2 turns.
I don't know because everything in almost everything in
I'll,
Richard's
I'll wait till we're done to give the rebuttal to that.
almost everything in Richard's list can it can wound your the Laketown guard on 4s. All of his orc warriors can probably piercing strike if they want to. He has half trolls. He has Morannons. And I guess it depends on whether he can disable the master from buffing the Laketown guard. But if he can, then they're sitting at fight 3 with no banner reroll. And for me, that's that I feel like they would die really quickly. So I think, I mean, Matt has more might, so he might be he might pick most of the combats or more frequently because he'll probably have more might to call heroic moves. But even so, I think Richard still has at least 2 heroes that he can call hero combat with. He'll have the Mouth of Sauron and Gurits. So it's hard to say.
Always is in these things.
I think Matt has the better hero combination with the fortified Gwahir and his strategy of picking up the prize. It's more secure. But I do like Richard's army composition better, and I think it's more reliable and in just a straight up fight. And it really comes down to whether he can kind of break Matt and destroy his army before Matt can pick up the objective, as well as because he would need to. If Richard picks up his objective, Matt would either have to wound Saruman or break Richard, right, in order to win.
Well, Matt can fly off with the.
Matt can fly out.
Yeah, he can just
Matt
go
flies
the
off.
board.
It's like an auto win, right? Because it's
Yeah.
7.
Well, I don't think it's auto win. I think it
auto-
ends the game.
It's auto win if I. Well, it's auto win in that it's 7 points if I get it off
Yeah.
one of my board edges. So I have to get Gwai here.
And-
it's only
and
5 points if I get it off one of Richard's.
And I
board
think
edges.
Matt positioned his guys well to where even if he breaks, that kind of benefits Matt in a way because it doesn't give Richard enough time to take the relic and bring it back. That's why what I mean by like if Matt takes it, brings it back and gets the 7 points, it's just detrimental.
Well, I agree with you guys. Like, it is a tough scenario for me. I think my objective would be to try to grab the relic. So to try to break Matt, obviously, and then so it's easier for me to grab the relic as well, which would total to six victory points. So even if Matt, grabs his objective, I'm hoping like the game ends before he flies off the board. I think that's my win condition.
I think that's possible too, to be honest. That's like exactly what I was like alluding to. Like it's possible. But Matt is more secure, like what Charles said. Matt's is a little more secure because there's less chance to it.
Just to be clear, because I know we're going to get emails about this or posts about this. I misstated what the points are for the relic. If I'm remembering correctly now, it's 1 point if you move it, but don't have it at the end. 3 points if you move it and have it at the end. 5 points if you have returned it to your half of the sandwich.
Yes.
And then 7 points if you have taken it off the board on
Yes.
your half of the sandwich.
Yes.
Okay, so you actually have to go to his side and come back.
Yes.
Yes.
It's basically
To get
capture
5
the flag.
points.
Oh, well then that
Ooh, this
changes
kind of
a
actually
bunch.
changes things.
Yeah.
Devin, also remember the money I wired you.
Yeah, no, I've been waiting for it. Actually, I got it. So
That's why he went with.
that
That's why
does-
he went with Matt. He didn't get it yet.
Yeah.
That does change things too because it makes
Okay, well,
it makes
having to go back
Richard's
is
potential
interesting.
of like front ending everything makes more sense now.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah. So now
it,
the
it
only
makes
defense,
sense. It's like break and 6, maybe even if Saruman dies, a 6-3 victory, or
Man.
even if Gwahir gets a 6-5 victory.
Well, that's
So
where
it's
going
like-
art of. This would be like the longest duel ever.
Yeah.
That's going over.
So what I'm going to ask. So Charles, who would you pick in the end? If hearing what you heard, you had to pick one. Who are you going with?
All right, I just have one quick question. So Matt, are you planning on throwing Lady of Light into combat at all?
maybe toward the end. It depends. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not. I mean, I have the benefit. I mean, this is, in all honesty, a list that's largely derived from things that Evan has done to me, and I mean, this was my. I was always completely shocked, and I suspect all of you would be shocked at how tough this lake. Unless you can neutralize the Master of Laketown, how tough.
It's him getting them to fight 4.
This lake. Well, it's getting them to fight 4. They're all fighting too deep, and they're all bannered. And every turn they are calling a heroic move.
Mm-hmm.
So every turn, unless it's something that has terror, which I can deal with heroes.
And I think this just comes from my experience because I always roll 6s, you know. When I play Samir against them, he of course is a good player. Or if I play other people from my group, I just haven't been that impressed. Even with when everything's clicking, the D4 they just drop like flies, and so, that's just my thing.
I mean, just to give you a sense of this, I played a version of this list against Evan last week, and he was playing Black Numenorian Harad and Corsair Alliance, and so they, this was going in against Black Numenorians. By like the end of the 3rd turn of combat or something like that, he had lost, I think, like 16 models, and I had lost 4. And what gets you this ability is the ability to basically to take 2 of your guys with a banner and then tie up like 2 to 4 of the opponent, and just do that because you're calling the heroic might every turn. And generally you're going to be either the other guy's going to be exhausted out of might, or he's just going to start letting you go first. And your ability to just kind of pin the other guy's line. And if you have that higher fight value, getting those 3 dice, if you win the combat, you're going to be killing like 1 or 2. I mean, he's got a higher defense army, so he's not going to go down quite as quickly as some of the stuff that I was playing was.
I think just mine is the 2 fight 5 mounted heroic combat can be a little difficult, but like that makes sense.
I mean, we can have that, but just the ability of having 36 of those dudes, where it's like, if they charge into 4 orcs, and if they lose the fight, one of them dies. Okay, we got more.
Okay.
The reason I asked about Lady of Light is I can, if there is a chance that she is exposed, Richard could try to take her out, and then the fortified spirit would be gone One squad here has to come back, right?
That's definitely a strategy, is to try and kill the Lady of Light. But I think she exists kind of in amongst the mob.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'll go with Richard slightly.
All right. So Matt's going to win 2-1 on votes. Let us know in the comment section below who you think would win. And if you have any lists that you'd like to submit for next week as well, put those there. If you have any ideas for the duel, if you enjoy it, let us know about that as well. We're always looking for questions for the Q&A. If you have any, like we said, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and please make sure to check out the Lynn Brothers podcast as well, so they can get a little bit of love from you guys as well. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.